Thank you. All right, so now we move to item 22, the request for drawdown of funds for major cycleway Heathcote Expressway, Section 2, Tannery to Martindales. So we've got Donald Hanrahan and Lynette Ellis, both attending, as I understand it, by Zoom. So I'll hand over to Steph for any opening remarks on the report, and then we'll move to questions. Thank you.
Tato. I will do a very quick introduction, as I'm sure there's lots of questions to answer on this, but I'll introduce, for those of you who don't know, Donald is online, I think. I can't see him.
Yes.
Yep, great. Donald's online, so he's the project manager for the project, so we'll be able to answer a lot more of the detailed questions that I'm sure you'll have. Look, just to summarise really quickly for you all, when we were undertaking our application for shovel-ready projects, we got asked very quickly to add a few projects to it. What else did we have that was shovel-ready in sense of having approvals and that we could move forward to the shovel-ready program? This was one of the projects, and at the time we had a very short period to turn the application around. So what we did as staff was we utilised the existing figures from the LTP at the time, which was 8.6 million. We undertook a due diligence process in conjunction with Otakaro at the time, and it showed that we were going to be closer to 11 million to actually build the route. Now, something to bear in mind, and Donald can talk to a bit of the detail, but something to bear in mind is even at 11 million, we are looking at similar costs per kilometre to build as we have for all of our other cycleways, which are coming in between 3 and 4 million a kilometre. Big numbers, sorry. So we undertook that due diligence. The Crown still funded us at the 8.2 million, which was minus the costs that had already been expended. And one of the conditions on the shovel-ready funding was that we had at program level contingency available to address any unforeseens. Well, in this project, it wasn't entirely unforeseen. So we put $3 million on budget as part of the LTP at program level. We've talked through the finance and performance meetings in the past about how we will request your sign off as committee to draw down those funds should we need it. Now, the team have been working really hard to try and pull this project in closer to budget, and it hasn't worked. It's very technically complex. We've had to get through quite a lot of consenting, some more public consultation, especially around coming to terrace, finalising that and the details of that. And of course, we're working with, as we've heard earlier in the meeting, working with Kiwi Rail on Scrutton's crossing. We've had some concerns today, and we've had some questions, particularly from Councillor Chen and Councillor Johansson. I really like to, I'll just talk very briefly, and then I will hand over to Donald for a couple of minutes to talk to some of the detail against those questions. With regard to design changes, there haven't been fundamental design changes to the design of the cycleway from what was approved. What we've got is some changes or some increased work that have had to be done in order to meet our consent requirements. Increased length of the boardwalk, increased volumes in areas of planting, particularly to recreate habitat that we want to achieve through the consenting, and of course we've got increased cost requirements around Kiwi Rail crossing requirements. The other one we've heard, Councillor Chen, very much is your concern around shifting contingency budget from one project to another. This is not changing the overall budget. Please be aware this is not changing the overall budget of the project. we are not taking any money out of South Express. It still has its full budget that it had. We had this money sitting additional at extra, and Donald can talk to the detail of what we've done around South Express in particular. And we've highlighted in the report, there is still a risk that we may have to come back and say on one of the other projects and say, well, we took it out of the wrong project. When we were setting up this contingency fund in the LTP, we had quite a discussion about whether to put it together as one contingency fund for all of the shovel-ready projects, or put it against each route. We felt at the time it was more transparent to put it against each route, so we did that as part of the LTP. The contingency is there across all of the routes for all of the shovel-ready projects. So the other routes that are being funded through shovel-ready have still got their contingencies as well. Donald can talk to the details of. So Donald, can you talk to the detail of those design changes and the contingency, and then we'll pass over for questions.
Yeah, seconds there, just turn on my video.
There you go.
There we go. How are we doing? So prior to actually deciding where we were taking the budget from, I'm the project manager for South Express as well. So to take the contingency away in probably November, December, we did a full re-estimate of South Express. This is after the 2 contracts which bring us out to High Waterloo intersection had been awarded. So that's the largest portion of the works. And we are still coming in under our 20.2 million of shovel-ready funding. And as part of that, we have done some significant investigation works at that stage on the 2 contracts. We'd identified some services that needed to be relocated, minor ones. We've done significant coal tar testing. We've allowed contingency that varies between 10 and 50% on different elements of the work. Don't obviously want to go into details on the financial numbers, but it is still coming in under that 20 million budget that we have from the shovel ready. So I think we're pretty well covered on South Express with the shovel ready funding that's there. So I think we're fairly good with that one. On the design changes, so obviously there's the key rail one, which everyone's aware of, around the planting. So originally we were running down beside the river for most of the way, and now we've moved away from the river through Cycleway Reserve for various reasons. Some of them being ecological and just it's better to get it back from the river, and that was the preference from a consenting point of view. It also offers a bit better protection against some flooding incidents that are expected to happen down there in heavy rain and at king tides. So all in all, it was a better choice to move it away, but this has led to some more planting. We have to reinstate. We had planned on building what was on top of what was already a established track there, but now we have to reinstate that track. Also with the ecological side of things, we have found lizards down there. And as part of the dock permit, we needed to create a certain amount of lizard habitat. So we're using that area to create some of this habitat. All in all, it's probably over 2,000 square meters of additional planting we're doing, which we hadn't allowed for originally, which ended up being more expensive because a lot of it's through contaminated area. So every time we have to dig out for a tree pit, we end up having to dispose of contaminated material. The boardwalks, the increased costs in there, some of it's related to increased lengths of the boardwalks, and some of it's related, we've allowed contingency in there for increased costs as well of materials, and that covers the few little bridge structures we have to do down on the tunnel road section of the works as well. And the other significant item that's cropped up as part of our investigation works was we did some service location on Cumnor Terrace, and with keeping Cumnor Terrace 2-way and the removal of the footpath, we will have to relocate some Orion cables, which is a large sum of money between Orion and they require traffic management. So that wasn't allowed for in the original thing. So they're the main items which have led to the cost increases.
All right, thank you for that. So we're happy to move to questions now?
Yes.
Thank you. So just on the South Express, so Resolution 2C, it's comforting to hear, Donald, that you've also got delivery responsibility for South Express, so you're close to that project and you know it. The drawdown of the 2 million from Programme 1980, Major Cycleway South Express, in Resolution 2C, the advice we're getting is that that doesn't affect our ability to deliver South Express as planned and as expected.
Yes, it's looking like we won't need that contingency to deliver South Express.
So there's nothing about that resolution that affects our ability to deliver South Express?
No. We still have significant contingency within our current budget for South Express.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll go to Jimmy and then Jake. Thank you. Jimmy.
Thank you, Chair. Donna, I just want to ask you, you particularly mentioned earlier regarding to the major cycle route, South Express, total $20 million. But even based on today, the Finance Performance Committee meeting, the Section 1 is $9.2 million. Section 2, Buchanan to Craven, is $15.5 million. Even these two sections, if we add it together, is $23.7 million. So when become the $20 million?
So the $20 million is for Section 2 and Section 1 and Section 2. Is that correct, Donald?
Yeah, so the $20 million I'm referring to is the shovel-ready funding, and the cost to complete we've done ignored the prior spent costs. So it was just from this point now when we did it to completion. So yes, there was approximately 2 million, I think it was 2 million of already costs.
3.7, it's a 3.7, am I right?
Right. Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. So when I'm talking about the 20 million, I'm just talking about the shovel-ready pot. What's been spent on CPMS already, what's already been spent prior to the shovel-ready agreement, isn't taken into account into that. So that was around design costs, scheme costs. That's already been covered.
Yes. So, Councillor, and while Section 1 is Section 1, or is it Section 3? The Blenheim Road section, the one from Blenheim Road out towards Upper Riccarton, that section is not funded through the shovel-ready funding. It is part of the shovel-ready projects, but it is part of the council co-funding and NZTA co-funding. So the 20.2 million applies to the bit from Upper Riccarton right out to Templeton.
Okay, but it's from Upper Riccarton to the Templeton. Actually, this covered the Section 1 and the Section 2.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Secondly, I still would like to ask, because community raised a particular concern. This, even you mentioned, is the contingency fee. Council still have a planting of the contingency fee. Not any impact this major cycle route project. But I'm still, can you just answer my question clearly? We draw down today $2 million from this MCR South Express project to the Cycleway project, Heathcote Express Section 2, Canary to the Martindales. Is there any impact to the major cycle route, South Express project on budget, material purchase, cost escalation, and the progress? Can you just answer my question clearly?
So, Councillor, the request to draw down budget from the contingency for South Express to Heathcote today will not affect the South Express delivery We have done an assessment and we are confident we have enough contingency to deliver that with what we've got. So it will not affect it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jake.
Hey, Lynette, earlier you mentioned you've gone through a design efficiency process to try and cut out any, try and save money where possible. If, given you've already gone through that process, if any councillors were of the view that going back and redesigning to make this cheaper was a possibility, can you just kind of outline how much that would cost and what kind of delay in financial terms that might add?
Got any ideas, Donald, on that one?
So look, it's quite a difficult one to redesign or reduce the scope. A lot of it is areas down the back of Kenaway Business Park, down the back of Ferrymead Park. There isn't much scope to redesign there. It's a track going from A to B. There isn't any real major redesign options. We have looked at some. We have done a little bit of redesign. We've looked at incorporating other works with it, such as maintenance works, to get efficiencies there by doing the maintenance works while we're doing this. But yeah, we've done the minor changes, but there's not a whole lot we can do without removing scope from the project. And to remove scope, then we don't meet requirements of our shovel-ready agreement.
Sure, so it'd be pointless, essentially.
Yeah, I think also a lot of what's come at us has been a result of what we've agreed with our regulatory providers around, DOC and ECAN and others to get through the consenting. So we'd probably have to go back and start consenting again. So I can see the time and cost delay being reasonably significant.
Fantastic.
Best I can do today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Tim.
Thank you. And really, with regards to this, we're between a rock and a hard place because there's been so much time spent on this. With regards to, I've just two questions. One is, what would have happened to these contingencies if they weren't needed? Because if this project didn't need them.
They would have been put back into they would have been released at year end when the projects were finished.
Okay.
Or when the whole shovel-ready program was finished.
So would it have had to have been handed back to the government?
No, this is not money to hand back to the government. Okay. This is council money as part of the LTP.
Okay, so that's not shovel-ready.
It's the shovel-ready funding agreement that we had a condition that said council had to put some money on budget at program level in order to cover unforeseen cost escalations, I suppose. Yeah. Unforeseen conditions.
Okay.
To ensure the project could keep moving. Sorry, Councillor.
No, thank you. I guess the second one, it's the more awkward one in the sense that I'm just confused because it's kind of like the success of the cycleways, the major cycleways, is for people to get to work, and it's working. But we've got problems now with families wanting to bike in their neighbourhoods and to schools, etc. So I guess that's the next thing, and so maybe I would have hoped that this type of thing, that these contingencies would have been used for that, and maybe that's a discussion for us at some stage. But yeah, it's I guess that's something to look at. If we've got contingencies in the future, then certainly that's something that perhaps we should look at. Maybe, Dawn, that's a question to put to you and your staff and come back to us.
So I'm happy to do that, Councillor Scrandrett, but and it's not a but, it's an and, sorry. In reality, we would need to look at the whole position on contingency and what the preference is for elected members as well. So there's a much wider debate, but this is a very specific issue today in terms of the relationship both with the shovel-ready funding and how it had to be accounted for in terms of contingency. Thank you. It's a wider issue you've raised. I'm happy to come back as we go back through our debating on the way we handle the capital programme.
Thank you.
can I just add though as well, don't forget we do have a local cycle network program that you have signed up to as part of the LTP that is being developed and will be worked through over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the key things now that's being raised by our communities is issues around travel in their communities rather than main roads. And the main roads are bad enough, but yeah, anyway, so it's certainly going to be raising its head and be an issue in the next 12 months.
We're planning for that too.
Understood. That's all good. So I've got Phil and then Mike. Phil.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I've got a couple of questions. The South Express thing, has that actually been awarded the two stages of that?
65% of South Express has been awarded to date. Yep. Getting close to.
So there's still an outside chance that, well, you hope you have got enough contingency if the next one goes over?
There is, but we have allowed significant contingency. We've allowed contingency to offset inflation based on recent experience. And to date, our engineers' estimates and the tendered values were very, very close. So I'm pretty confident that we're right.
Okay, thank you. So that's that 2 mil. Now, just 2 million, I should say. The 3 million from it says Heathcote Expressway. That's from the bit that's already built. Is that 3 million left over from that bit? Where did that?
No. So this is the contingency. When Section 2 got accepted as a shovel-ready project, we did our due diligence and it showed that it was going to cost more than the 8 million we anticipated, closer to 11. We were hopeful then that we would be able to work it back closer towards the 8, but we, as part of the LTP process, we put $3 million on budget, contingency on budget at the program level for Heathcote as part of the LTP, as the conditions of the funding agreement require us.
Oh, so that 3 million is already allocated to this particular job. Okay. So, just going back, what was the trigger to build an MCR to go somewhere way back in the day? What I can't understand is, and I'm certainly not getting stuck into the people in Heathcote because my son lives there, but that I can understand an MCR going to Cashmere, Northwood, the university, Rolleston, Sumner, all of those places, because there's lots of people there, especially Horswell with lots of growth. But to go to I'm not sure there's a lot of people, mind you, Mr. Calvert would be happy, that want to just cycle to the Valley Inn.
I can't go through.
What was the reason to put one there? Look, I wasn't here.
Look, I haven't got. I probably can't go into the detail without tripping everybody up, but the whole of the network, this is consistent with the network that was signed off at the strategic level by council. So we put a strategic case up to NZTA, which was where we got our BCR level for the network of 8, a benefit of 8 to every dollar spent, $8 for every dollar spent. So that was the economics came through, and the strategic level, the strategic case was put forward to NZTA and council here and signed off. There are still a lot of people that cycle in that way. There's a big catchment of people that picks up. It also picks up the western, if I've got my directions right, western side of the tunnel road and all of that area. So it's a big catchment that it is picking up. And don't forget, it comes all the way through town and picks up catchment all the way through.
Oh, yeah, no, I'm just thinking
point of order, Mr. Chair, can we please make sure that the questions are in scope? Because I'm not sure that these questions are in scope.
It's a good point, Pauline, and we do need to remember that the decision that we're making this afternoon is around the cost escalation and the funding. It's not going back to the fundamentals of the networks and the design, except for the design changes, obviously, that have been noted. So, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm certainly keeping a very close ear on the type of questions that have been asked, but thank you.
No, fair comment, Andrew. Sorry about that. I was just trying to get a bit of background on why it actually happened in the first place. The cost for the Scruttons Road crossing seems quite high. Lynette, obviously we can't go and tell Kiwi Rail to go and jump in the lake because they're not playing ball with us. Because as we all know, this cycleway doesn't actually cross the railway line. They're just making us put in a crossing, which is very expensive.
That's correct. Well,
sorry, what I'm saying is...
Let me reframe that. Sorry. There has been so with Kiwi Rail, there's been an LCISA done. That acronym's terrible, but I don't even know what it means. But it is effectively a level crossing risk assessment process that Kiwi Rail goes through. That has been completed. That suggested we needed to do chicanes or a maze because it was a low volume of traffic. You jump in if I'm incorrect, Donald.
If you want, I'll go through that.
You go.
Yeah. So basically, the LCSIA was done, I think it was in 2019 or early 2020. It's suggested that because of the low volume, that a maze would be sufficient. That's what we used for our estimate. Even though Kiwi Rail's requirement for double tracks is technically gates, the LCSIA recommended a maze just due to the isolated nature of the area. It's not like a busy central area. So yeah, that's what we went with. I think it was in mid-2020, Kiwi Rail rejected the LCSIA and insisted on gates, which is how we've got to where we are now.
So what I'm getting at, when you say traffic, you're talking train traffic or car traffic?
Car traffic, basically. It's a dead-end road. There's 3 or 4 properties up the other end of that road. So
it's bikes and pedestrians and cars.
No, because we built Stratton's Road years ago, and you're right, Donald. There's only 2.5 houses up there, and I'd be surprised if there was any more than 10 cars, 6 cars a day that go over that crossing. So what my question was, sorry, Lynette, was why don't we just tell Kiwi Rail to go and take a running jump, because they're not helping us in any direction anywhere else. That's what I've heard about all this morning. Why don't we just go and do it and say, come and have a crack at us later?
Well, it's not being a good community member, and we are trying to build in the corridor on the land.
Okay, fair enough.
There's a bit of a trade-off on that.
No, the rest of my stuff, Andrew, will be in debate. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Mike next.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. So actually you sort of clarified it before. When the rail crosses the road, it's actually Kiwi Rail's property, not our property. So we're a little bit stuck there. The other thing is, I noted in section 10, when you talk about the risk, there's obviously a risk to the project, that the government may withdraw the shovel-ready funding if we say no to this decision. Is there also a risk, I guess, to other shovel-ready funded programs, even if it's a small risk?
I suppose technically, as the MCRs are funded as one shovel-ready project, there is a very small risk. I think it would be extremely unlikely that they could.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Dawn, you're indicating you wanted to make some comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's really just for clarity for elected members in relation to the recommendations. First and foremost, 2A, you've already gone through that through the LTP process, and it was assigned as a contingency to this project. But you're seeing all 3 elements quite rightly, because we want to be completely transparent about the costs in relation to this project. But fundamentally, 2A, you've already agreed as part of the LTP. So the number sounds big, but we've already planned for it. The team worked really hard to try and bring it back, but you understand the circumstances that have been described. So I just wanted to reinforce that message to you. But this is about, we're living the aspect of being really clear about what's happening in the capital programme, so governors have full sight. I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you. So I've got Yanni, Leanne and Aaron. Yanni.
Cool, thanks. So one of the reasons I understand that there's been an increased cost is because the developer, there's been some sort of agreement with the developer around redesign. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the section in the report that mentions that. But I was just really interested to kind of understand what discussions have been held with the developer, what the extra cost has been put onto us, and more importantly, why that's seen as fair given the agreements we've already had with the developer previously around letting them off the hook for a huge amount of money to address the cycle and pedestrian safety along this corridor.
Yeah. So in 2016, when this was originally proposed, the scheme design went out. The developer has an encumbrance over a section of that area, and they have their haul road there. They asked us at that time to make some changes, which pushed the cycleway in through the trees, and it had to wind through trees down there, which isn't an ideal situation from the trees perspective, because you've got to build something in the middle of them, and also from numerous other reasons, from constructability, safety issues. So when we got back to actually shovel ready was announced, this was looked at, we went back because we found out it was a new owner of the development. We went back to them, asked them, do they still want this weaving through the trees, or would they be happy with us going back to our original scheme design, which keeps it in a nice straight line well away from the trees? They said they didn't really care. They were quite happy with it to go back on its original preferred alignment. So that's what we've done. So, but as part of that, then we have to do, that also gave us the opportunity to do the planting and create the habitat for the lizards, which we needed to do for the dock permits.
So it's not because of the consent and the development?
No, it's just an opportunity we had to go back and rediscuss, work with the developer. So we went back to them with our preferred option, which was the straight track.
Sorry, I'm just trying to understand why that's led to the increase in cost.
It's the consenting requirements around the additional planting there that's the increased cost, not the nothing to do with the development. So we're putting a path in,
right.
And so we're also putting in additional planting to increase habitat, and additional planting to help manage high water levels.
Okay, so am I clear in thinking that the Orion cables that are being relocated are the same ones that the developer paid to be undergrounded in 2014, when the staff recommended that we enable the developer, instead of building a safe cycleway through here, that they could just underground a few of the power poles?
I'm sorry, Councillor, we haven't. We've been working closely with this developer, but we haven't delved into his consents or what was required of that.
The Orion cables we're moving are on the section of Cumnor Terrace between the Tannery and Chapman's Road. I'm not aware of where the developer undergrounded cables, but those ones, looking at the condition of the curb there and the existing road surface, it was done well before 2014.
Okay, so we're not digging up along Cumnor Terrace between Chapman's Road and Munsell Street.
Yes, that's where we're doing the removing the cables, but I'm not aware that they were moved recently, or there was undergrounding done there recently. I can look into it.
Yeah, it was 2014. So the consent requirement for the developer was to provide, recognising the heavy vehicles that were going to be increased using that road, was to create a safer pedestrian cycling corridor, it came to the community board, and the staff advice was in agreement with the developer to remove parking on one side, put yellow lines down, and put some undergrounding in to get the footpath on that south side, I guess.
Yeah. Look,
So
I'll look
So-
into
just
it
trying
and
to
get back
understand
to
how
you.
much of that work are we undoing with the decision that we're going to make around the increased
Undo?
costs today?
So none, because you've already made the decision around the design. So that decision's already been made. What
Oh,
we've
okay.
found out, so you've already made the decision, as Dawn pointed out before, around 2A, around section 2. The design's already done. We've not fundamentally changed the design. These questions were really back then.
Also, why wasn't the Orion stuff picked up way back then?
Well,
Why is it only
The
been-
Orion, so this has come to light, but it doesn't change the design. So we've gone back and we've taken it. The undergrounding needs to occur to support maintaining two-way access along this section of Cumnor Terrace, correct?
Yeah.
And that's what came back to the board and then to UDAT. When did we go back on that decision? Last year?
Mid last year.
So again, I think it's important that we focus on the design changes that are the subject of the cost escalation, which we've heard are not fundamental and are minor, and on the cost escalation itself and the drawdown of programme funds to cover that, rather than on matters of design, which were the subject of earlier decisions.
So I'm just looking at 4.11.2. During detailed design, Cumnor Terrace on-site service investigation was carried. Investigation undertaken in 2021 indicated existing Orion 11 kV cables along Cumnor Terrace would need to be relocated to the other side of the road. And then it's got the
In order
attachment
to
D.
enable the design.
So
it is part of why our cost has escalated, but we still have to shift the cables in order to enact the decision that you made, that was made to roll with this design.
right,
If we don't
okay.
shift the cables, we can't do the design.
And why can't we do the design with the cables where they currently are?
Because with the removal of the footpath on the southern side, we're reducing the cover on the cables, so we're reducing the depth of them, because we have to get the crossfall for the drainage, and basically the cables are then too shallow. So we have the opportunity to either lower them or relocate them, and it's just the preferred option is relocating, because with the removal of the footpath, the cables would be out in the road, which isn't ideal from Orion's point of view.
Right. And obviously Orion won't pay for that. They've confirmed that they won't. They don't see them paying for it, and the developers can confirm that they won't pay for it either.
This has nothing to do with the developers, though.
Oh,
This is
sorry.
not to do with the developers.
I'll send the 2014 thing around again. So there was an agreement with the developer that council worked through around undergrounding to get them off the hook for what was probably going to be a very expensive mitigation to make this a safer place for cyclists and pedestrians. So they might not legally have like a responsibility, but I would have thought that one of the conversations should be with the developer. And I put this, the other thing I put through was in regards to that development, obviously there's possibly some development contributions coming in. Are we able to do what we can do, as I understand it, is look at a development agreement to offset some of those DCs to put them back into funding the improvements that are needed here?
I'm not the expert on DCs here, I'm afraid. I would have to get, I don't know whether Jane's still on, but or knows that one, but yes, she pops up.
Jane is still here. Jane, do you have any comment on that?
I can't see how we would be able to collect DCs and on this one, but we will have a look at that. So one of the things that Annette probably hasn't covered yet is that while we're asking for this drawdown, we will still do everything we can to minimise the costs. So we will go and have another conversation with the developer to see if we can do some cost sharing, but I'm not optimistic that that's going to happen. We'll look at the DCs and the team will continue to look at any potential savings as we go through the project and through construction. So it doesn't need a resolution on that, but we will add that to the list of things that we will do to try and keep the costs down.
And you'll also look at this 2014 decision that Yanni's referring to and see what any implication of that might be as you are considering how you deal with the developer.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, just in terms of the trenching though, I just where it's being proposed to go on the north side of the road, is that all consented? Because that seems pretty full on in terms of consenting as well around, if you need to dig up the road. Is that because it's going under the new cycleway, is it? So it's covered in our consent. We don't need to worry about additional consent.
No, it's covered by our consent.
Right. Okay. And then I was just trying to understand too, like, obviously the resource consent is pretty sad when you read about the ecological impact that this route has, and there's a number of concerns raised. But one of the more poignant concerns raised was around the fact that the route didn't really take into account sea level rise or coastal erosion, and it didn't look. This was from the Shedbolt. Mr. Shedbolt raised concern with potential ecological effects, taking into account sea level rise. And he goes on to say there does not seem to be any account taken in
Is this question relevant to the matter that's in front of us today, Yanni?
Well, what I was, because staff have said that obviously there needs to be more money to address some of the ecological impacts. What I'm trying to understand is what assessment has been done about sea level rise, coastal erosion, and the impact that would have on what's being proposed with the new design, because obviously we've heard that there's been some design tweaks as we've gone through.
Yeah, we have looked at, I have to look back over the documents, but we have looked at projected sea level rise and where that will bring us, where that will end up on the path and how often it will likely happen. But I couldn't comment on it without having the numbers in front of me. But the moving of the path in Cycleway Reserve, which was the lowest point of the path, we're moving it back from the river. We're gaining a little bit of elevation there, so that has had a significant positive impact on that.
Right. Okay.
All right. Thank you. So, Leanne, now I'll come to you.
Yes, sorry, I'm not going to turn my video on. It's just not good. I just wanted to question, because I think there needs to be something added to the recommendations, picking up on Phil's point and probably Yanni's as well. And that is that there needs to be, request staff, the mayor, whoever, to approach other entities for contribution towards the cost, the additional cost. And, without spelling out who they are, I've got a view on Kiwi Rail. I had reached out to the former chair of Kiwi Rail prior to her stepping down, and she was all ready to meet with me, but we received that there was correspondence between the two chief executives, and the new chair. I'll reach out to him when I'm back at work, but I think that it's pretty fundamental that we acknowledge that in this particular instance, this was thrown into the shovel-ready projects it was thrown into the shovel-ready projects after the fact. And I suppose my question is this still more than we would have got if we just had a 50-50 split with Whakakotahi? Are we getting more from the government through the shovel-ready project than we would get for a major cycleway route?
Yes, we are.
So
it's over 50%, even with this additional funding.
But it's nowhere near as much as we thought it was. So I think we've got a reasonable case to go to government for additional funding, and I think that that should be a recommendation that's included in the recommendations that we consider today.
So we're just getting something put up now alongside request the mayor to approach other request the mayor.
Well, not just mayor, no, and staff. I mean, I
so we've got request the mayor
and the chief executive. Mayor and the chief executive to approach, because I don't want to name names, but there's going to be more than one that we'll approach.
Yep, for a contribution towards the additional costs. So request the mayor and the chief executive to approach other entities for a contribution towards the additional costs. So that's showing as an additional resolution 3 now. Great, thank you. Leanne, nothing further?
No, thanks.
All right, thank you. Aaron.
Thanks, Andrew. A couple of questions. Going back at being a shovel ready, what was the definition of shovel ready? I thought they were meant to finish by now because we're 2 years on.
No, they had to start within 12 months.
Oh, right. So that'll be a new definition if you look up shovel ready. It's normally ready to go. That's like it sounds, shovel.
All right, we've got the answer to the question. Did you have something further?
Yeah, I know that doesn't really matter. But the counters, we had some of us received an email, or maybe everyone did, from a chap from the university who was dubious of the amount being spent on this cycleway originally, and he went down and did some cycle counts, and he's been back since, and his peak hour counts on that cycleway are like 6 an hour. Have we done counts?
Yep.
And what are they?
Oh, I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, sorry. That was around the design. We did them all and reported that when we reported the design.
Right, yeah, because he was, obviously.
So again, focusing on matters that are subject of the paper that's in front of us today and the decision that we've been asked to make today, that would have been in scope for the design, not for today's funding issue.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew, it's just some ratepayers get a bit upset when they see several $1 million being spent for a handful of people. Making. So that's what he was raising in his email.
Understood.
Okay. Yeah. So those counts are. So then the other one on counts is once the cycleway opens, so we can go out to the public with confidence and say, hey, look, these are open, they are successful. These are the numbers, and I know that we're doing it to save the planet. So the commuter cyclists are the real numbers we're after. The recreational cyclist doesn't reduce carbon, makes people healthier, which is a good thing, but it's not reducing carbon. You're going for a bike ride for fun. You're not swapping your journeys. So what are we counting that? And when we open a cycleway like this and spend, millions of dollars, we can then go back to the public and say, yep, we have this many people now commuting from this area, whereas beforehand only this many people commuted. What do we have numbers we can pin to the board and show people?
Yep, we do. We're required on all of our cycleway program has got a monitoring program that goes in afterwards. So there's static counters that are in there counting all the time, and that all of that information is up online on all of the completed ones.
So do we set measurable targets?
Yeah, there's targets. There's target usage rates set in the business case that was set up and the economics that was set up for it. So again, it was all covered off in the designs.
Yep.
Okay, I think it'd be good to be more transparent with the public on that, so then we can say to them, look, this much was spent and we met this target. This is the number here. This is what it was.
No need.
All right, thank you. So I've now got Yanni, Jimmy and Mike, all of whom have previously asked questions. You've got further questions, have you? I'll come to Mike first.
Thank you. Just a couple of things. And Leanne was actually touched on what I was going to talk about, and I don't think it was actually included in the resolution, and that's actually seeking co-funding with Waka Kotahi on the additional funding requirements?
We will approach them, yes.
Yeah, I just think it needs to be recorded in the resolutions, make it very clear. Is there any possibility of additional shovel-ready money, or is that no opportunity there?
We can approach them.
So I think we should do that as well. The other thing, and I guess it's just getting some clarity on Aaron's comments, and he's talking about 6 people using the cycleway. Obviously, the decision we're making means we haven't actually built the cycleway, have we?
We haven't. No, we haven't. So okay. What's counted out there, like all of our cycleways, is there's no facility there. So
yeah, which it could be a reason why we don't have many people biking. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Jimmy.
Thank you. Chair, one more question, Donna or Lene. The intersection of Gilbert South, Waterloo, and also Parkers Road, this is one of the major cycle route, the South Express Cycleway facility. I just want to know, because this is part of major cycleway facility, so you answer my question, no any impact regarding to this $2 million transfer. But when, because of the community, Hornby community resident particular concern, those are like a cyclist, the crossing, pedestrian crossing, traffic crossing, the safety issue, whether there's a part of our budget already or not, and also when this intersection, will be resolved and also report to the community board.
Councillor, as we discussed earlier in the meeting, I'll ask Donal and the project team to do an update to the community board on the timeframes.
Yes.
On the detail of the breakdown of the timeframes, as Richard alluded to earlier.
Yes.
It is included.
Yes.
The cost implications in
yes.
Using my words. The cost implications for the Gilberthorpe to Parker Street intersection is included in our planning for South Express.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your answer. Thank you. Well done.
Thank you. So, Yanni, back to you.
Yeah, thank you. So, just in regards to the budgets, if we wanted to build it within the existing budget, accepting that we've put the additional one in 2A on budget already, could we, as we've done with some of the other cycle routes, stage the final section to a later date? So how could we do that? Because obviously the Kiwi Rail stuff, it'd be good to have a process to work that through. That's probably the biggest cost increase. Certainly one of the biggest cost increases. So are we able to park that section and use the existing budget to deliver what we've already got?
Yes, you still have to have a commitment to deliver the other section in order to make sure you retain your shovel-ready funding. That is the biggest risk in this. We could cut it back or stage it, but you still have to have the budget at some point. The longer we take to build this, the more it'll cost, as we're learning every day.
Yeah. And do you have a sense of how much cost of the new cost is attributed to the other side of Tunnel Road versus on the
other side? All I can say is that something in the order of 30-odd% is attributable to the crossing costs.
Right.
All right, thank you. So I've got Aaron and then back to Phil. Aaron.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I did have one more, but now
sure.
I'm a little confused. So I've kind of got two more because before Mike said that the cycleway is not built yet. So when does the Kamna section get built?
We haven't let a tender yet. So Kamna Terrace is built along to Garlands Road, and it's the Kamna Terrace section from Garlands Road towards Heathcote that hasn't been built, and we haven't awarded a tender yet.
So some at Kamna Terrace is built?
Yes, north Garland Road.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, because that's the bit that guy was doing his rogue surveys, was along there. So because that's what he put in it. You see Kamna Terrace. But that aside, so it is built. I was a little confused. And then the other one is in the paper under the alternate options. And I know Jake was keen on this earlier. He said under the alternate options, it said that if we went for keeping it within scope, that would have to give money back. How do we know that?
Sorry?
Under the alternate options, it said that if we go with the alternate option, we would have to
reducing scope
give money back. Do we know that for sure? This is not recommended, as doing so would require funding received under the shovel-ready agreement to be refunded.
Yes. So the agreement from the funding agreement that we signed up to for the shovel-ready projects define the scope of what has to be delivered, and it's the outcome base that needs to be delivered, and hence we were required to have some contingency on program in order to cover unforeseens to ensure that we could deliver the scope that was delivered. So yes, it's a very real opportunity if you cut the scope back, that we will have to pay back what we've been paid to shovel ready, and we won't get the 8 million.
So we had that conversation with them, and they've confirmed that. Right, even if you're spending it on what you said you'd spend it on, just the prices are going up, they'd still ask for the money back. Right.
Yes, because they are asking us to deliver from the tannery to Martindale's. That's what we signed up to do.
Well, okay, thank you. That's pretty mean, but yeah.
All right, thank you. So I've now got Phil and Mike. I'm keen to move this along. So Phil and Mike, and maybe that'll be the end of questions at that point. So Phil next.
Fair enough. Sorry, it won't be long. So just going back to what Tim said, Lynette, if we've got surplus contingency money, we don't have to give, I'm sure I heard this right, we don't have to give it back to the government. It is ours to do what we like.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Mike.
I'm just happy to move it.
Right, okay. So Mike will move and Pauline will second.
I'd like to see the third para, please, the new resolution.
Yep. So we've got a screen been shared in front of us now. So I'm assuming everybody can see that.
Can you change the wording for a contribution towards the additional cost to fund the additional costs? And I mean, that doesn't mean that it's not a contribution, but I just think that we should be pretty blunt about why we've got to where we've got to.
So request the Mayor and the Chief Executive to approach other entities, including but not limited to Waka Kotahi, to fund the additional costs, is what we've got now. Yep.
Thank you.
Great. And I'm assuming the mover and seconder are happy with that change.
Yep.
Great. Thank you.
Right.
All right. So now moving into debate. So if I can have the screen with everybody on it back in front of me again, please, so I can see who's signalling they want to speak. That's great. Thank you. So I've got Phil, Yanni, and then Jimmy. Phil.
Yep. So this, in my view, this is the only reason that I think this has come to where we've got to at the moment. Is it's not about the Cycleway. It was the way I felt that it was quietly getting into PX, and I'm very happy that this is out there and we're having a discussion, so everyone can see it. And going forward, I would relish the thought that the stadium has the same amount of scrutiny going on it. I'm still not quite sure what I'm going to do as far as going with it or against it. I'm still weighing that up, but it seems one hell of a lot of money, especially when I can't understand that some projects have had the QS has gone in with a price, and he's so far is so high, say this Southern Express, and it's got surplus of 2 million, but then they're absolutely so low on this one. I understand, of course, that the railway crossing is very expensive for a cycleway that doesn't actually cross the railway line. That seems a bit daft to me. But so all I'm saying is that I'm pleased we've had this discussion out in the open, because then the public can see what is going on. So thank you.
Thank you. Yanni.
Yeah, thanks. I was just going to ask if the additional resolution could ask staff to investigate the use of a development agreement with the developer.
That's a further question, and we're now in debate, but you'll recall...
Oh, sorry, I had my hand up when it got put on the screen, so...
Right.
I'm happy to move. I'm happy to just signal moving an amendment to do that.
All right,
I don't think it's a big deal. It's just asking for the advice.
Resolution covers that.
You recall what we heard before was that all steps would be taken to realise any additional funding so that we didn't need to draw down everything that we're dealing with today. And you'll recall I asked the question around dealing with the developer and taking into account your 2014 resolution that you've been referencing, and the answer to all of that from Jane was yes. So I think we can be confident it's going to happen.
Oh, cool. I mean, if I just quickly speak to it, I think this shows that we've still got a lot of lessons to learn as a council. It was really clear at the time that plan change was approved and that development was going in, that the increase in traffic and particularly heavy vehicles going through here was going to have a negative impact on the ability for people to walk and cycle in this area. So that, coupled with the requirement in the district plan that the developer should actually have to provide the upgrade, because it was based on the increased traffic in the area, it was attributed to them, was something that unfortunately didn't get taken up, and instead we got a substandard, what in my view was a substandard decision by the community board to enable some undergrounding and some yellow lines to remove parking, and still had the fundamental problem of not having good and safe cycling through this area. It seems a real shame that when people underground, they don't put it in shallow enough to enable the street to change in the future without being moved to the other side of the road. So I'm still struggling to understand how that has gone so wrong. And this was recent. This was 2014. This isn't going 20, 30 years ago. This was relatively recent where these things were approved. What's really clear, though, in my mind for this particular route is that there are serious concerns around the ecology, the bird life, and the impact of sea level rise and climate change on the proposal that cuts through this very narrow corner into the Kenaway development. I'm really concerned at the loss of trees, mature trees, the impact on the bird life, and some of the bird life, which does actually include threatened species. So I just don't believe that this is the right design. And, I think we're paying the cost of that now for the increased cost that we're facing to try and mitigate some of those issues, if we can even do that. I accept that the decision on the route has been made. I accept that there is a fund that has been put in, and I'm happy to recognise that. But I am going to abstain on the other two, B and C, because I don't believe that it's acceptable to be adding this money to this project without reconsidering the design elements of it, whether it's staging it, whether it's not doing the Kiwi Rail work with the significant costs that's been forced upon us by Kiwi Rail. And I think it would be much better to build it within the existing budget that we currently have, and then look at what we do in terms of that additional funding. So I won't be supporting those two additional resolutions today, but I hope that we can also get a lessons learnt project, a closeout report on this, because for those of us who also thought it was a bit silly to look at one-weighing it. How much time did we waste as part of that process that's led to more delay and more cost? And, you know, we've ultimately ended up keeping it as two-way, which some of us predicted would be the outcome from the start. Thank you.
Jimmy Chen.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I do appreciate this is open meeting. Give the also through the live stream, give the community residents, that they are fully, understand how the process. In the beginning, through the Q&A, even I support this project, but I'm reluctant to support the 2C because while during the Q&A, I emphasize the southwest major cycle route still under taking, still underway, not yet completed, still quite a few the uncertainty, the issues, and particular concern whether those budget is sufficient to meet those the project the needs. But based on the staff answer, give me more confidence. Also, this live stream, the community and the resident, they are fully understand, no any impact. This the 2 million contingency fee transfer from the current those major cycle route, the Cycleway, the South Express to the least new project. No any the impact. Also, the staff answer my question. Particular the community is not against those major cycleway. Their particular concern is need to improve those traffic, those safety, those cyclists, those petition crossing the safety issue, the infrastructure facility. That's why I ask the staff in the intersection of the Gilbert Thorpes, Waterloo, Parkers Road, Murphy Street, the improvement. There's the long awaited, almost 2 years, But I'm happy, acceptable the staff were presented to the community board, soon, and also the budget already commitment under current major cycle route, the cycleway, the budget. So in this kind of situation, I support this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Pauline.
Yeah, thank you. Look, I think this has been a really interesting item today. We've actually wandered out of the scope a wee bit occasionally, but and we have put a high degree of scrutiny over the whole project. But I personally think we've crossed the line into micromanagement, and I think we do have to have faith in our staff and the Cycleways team who are gathering historical successes in the way these cycleways are being delivered. And, and they are being used and valued by the people of Christchurch. Incredibly, we're getting more and more and more positive comments every day. Look, I have to take an issue with Councillor Curran's comments about recreational cyclists do not reduce carbon. They certainly do, and particularly this one will. Because if they're not going out on bike rides, they're probably jumping in the car and going somewhere else. So please keep that in mind, that these are cycleways are actually offering options, really healthy options and environmentally friendly options to get out and see and enjoy our fantastic city. So we're getting this project, so to date, we're getting over 50% of it paid for. And with this resolution that the Mayor has added, we have the opportunity to perhaps receive even more contribution, and I'm sure that we'll be successful in getting something. So please support this today. It's going to be an incredible benefit for Christchurch. And if you remember, the longer we leave this to let the staff get cracking on it, the more it will cost. So please support it today. I certainly will be. Kia ora.
Thank you. Is there any further debate before I come to Mike to close the debate? Aaron.
Yeah, thank you. I just want to raise a couple of points around this, and it's great that it is in the public domain, not that the public will probably have confidence that the debate was that robust, but I'll raise a couple of points that some people do raise in the public. Yeah, we are getting money and over half the money off the government, but that's still the public of Christchurch's money and the public of New Zealand's money. Sadly, it's borrowed money. It's not even money they've got sitting around. They're borrowing $100 million a day to pay for projects like this, which will affect people for generations to come. The original Cycleways projects, which were put on 10 years ago, should have been delivered 5 years ago and on the original budget, which every household paid for. But at some point, the council flipped the lever and went to over-engineering, and the term's been thrown around, gold plating the standard. We should have gone for adequate and delivered safe, adequate cycleways and taken the people on the journey to get people out on bikes. And yes, there is an increase in cycling. There's a big increase in recreational cycling. I'd like to see more commuter numbers, but only time will tell. But, you know, a lot of you, I think, have actually created a division in the city between people that are pro-cycling and people that are not. And it's really unhealthy. We haven't taken the people of Christchurch in a whole on the journey to get into cycling. You've not made cycling cool or fun. You've made it some sort of aggressive activity, and you can see that by the comments and things that people put online around cycling, which is really, really disappointing because I find cycling cool and fun. And it feels more like some of you are just building an empire to yourselves that you'll be able to say in future years that, oh, that was us that did that, whereas our resident surveys clearly say people want us to fix the roads and the footpaths, and they're happy to have cycleways, but they don't want this hierarchy of where the cycleway seems to be in sensational condition next to a road that's in crap condition. That just makes no sense. And so keep up the battle, keep forcing it down people's throats, but it is millions and millions of dollars over budget, and that is what upsets the public. And I know most of you don't want to hear that, and you'll sit in your own wee worlds with your cycle helmets on, not listening to the public, but the public have got a right to say that they, and they are telling us, and I think we should ask the question about the cycleways in the residents' survey this year, and then let the residents speak. Thank you for listening, everyone.
Melanie and then Celeste. Melanie.
I wasn't going to debate, but that inspired me. I haven't got much to say, but cycling is cool and fun. Look, I just went to pick up my daughter, and there's this poor child trying to get across the road on his bike, and this is in Cashmere. But if there was cycleways everywhere, he wouldn't be fearing for his life trying to get across the road. Now, the cycleway needs to be completed. It's ridiculous that someone can't bike safely all the way through to Sumner. It's absolutely dangerous if anyone, you know, only a really brave cyclist would bike along the road there. It's absolutely, it just is insane to not finish this off. And the funding, we've got the funding there, we've got the contingency there, and we know that this won't affect the expressway through Hornby. So I'm totally in support of this, and I'm in support of having safe cycling for everybody, including children, because we want our children to survive. Thank you.
Thank you. Celeste.
Yes, like Councillor Kokoro, I was inspired by Aaron's speech. I also think cycleways are fun, but they're not only fun, they're basic infrastructure. It's about improving our transport network. So, you know, at the moment, people are struggling with transport costs. And one of the few things that people can easily change in their budget is how they travel. So they can jump on a bus, they can jump on a bike. They probably can't afford to buy a ticket to the stadium. So, you know, we all know where taxpayer funded money's going. And I think it's a bit disingenuous to make comparisons with being frugal when we're sort of aware that we've got cost overruns in areas that we have effectively gold plated. So I think we just need to get on and get this done.
Thank you. Anne.
Kia ora. I want to be part of a forward future thinking council. And what we're doing here is providing alternatives to the car that people can use in a safe and healthy way to get places. We all know, and the challenges now of the cost of living on people's lives, the cost of petrol and the insecurity of the supply. if we are a forward-thinking council, we would start to see the signs that we need to be adapting and changing. And the cycleways are a way that is proof that we are able to do that. So let's be that future-thinking council. Let's continue to pioneer and lead the way in the country. Let's not be mired down by those who are stuck in old-fashioned thinking. Let's move forward and provide healthy, safe alternatives to people so they don't have to be relying on costly modes of transport that are causing damage to the environment. Let's support this today.
Thank you. Sam?
Yeah, thank you. And look, I actually really enjoy these debates because it does, I guess, highlight a few of the differences we have around the table, which is completely fine. But I don't think this is so much about a cycleway as such, but actually a contribution from the council to a fund that was established by the government 2 years ago. I think Aaron made a really good point that actually for Shovel Ready, yesterday was 2 years on from the first lockdown, and yet we still haven't quite delivered it. So look, I would have been comfortable with this, like we made a public call for last year, to actually deliver these within the budget provided by government. But I think tipping in from council is probably not something that actually the ratepayers of Christchurch are overly comfortable with at the moment. But look, just the other point, I think it's really useful that actually we can have these conversations in public. So I was only too thrilled that actually it could come to council.
Thank you. No further debate?
Yes, I've got my
Oh,
hand
Leanne,
up.
sorry, I didn't see you there. Thank you.
And as the person who raised this with the chief executive about the need to have it in public, I sort of thought that perhaps I should say a couple of words. I think it's important for everyone to remember that the purpose of the report is to seek approval for additional funding from project contingency funds that was set aside for purpose of contingency. They were a condition of us joining in with the Shovel Ready project. So we already signed off on having a contingency for this. We already knew that we could commit ratepayer funds to these. The project has been tendered but can't be awarded without the approval of additional funds, which is why we must do this. Do I think we should meet the full cost of the additional cost? No, I don't. And that's because I think that there have been things that have changed. Staff have not been able to progress negotiations with Kiwi Rail to an extent that I would find an acceptable one for our city. And I think that, you know, there have been a number of things that have happened. But I think that the most important thing is that to get this project underway, you'll see from the paper itself that there's a large Three Waters project included in one of the tenders. And so when you think of the ability to multiply other bits of work together into one project, it actually makes good financial sense for us to do that rather than to contract separately for that. So I think that there are a number of reasons why this makes sense, and I think that it probably would have been it would have been better, I think, if staff had included the contingency for the whole program as one single drawdown contingency rather than allocating to each one, because then I think Councillor Chen wouldn't have concerns that we were taking money from South Express when we're not. So, you know, but apart from that, I think that it's a reasonable case that the council bring to us. Of course, it had to be dealt with in the public arena, and I'm glad that it was.
Thank you. Mike, I'll come to you to close the debate. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. I think everyone would agree about the need to have this debated in public, and I think we're all probably surprised when we saw it published in the PX agenda. And this term council has significantly reduced the amounts of reports going into the public. So I would hate that the council gets tainted for, you know, that original decision of being in PX. It's ended up in the right place, and it's mostly been a good debate. I must admit I was pretty disappointed by the comments made by Councillor Q, and it's actually those are the comments that makes this divisive, not the comments where people are trying to encourage people to cycle and trying to invest in their safety and their future. So it's really important that we realise why we're trying to do this. And like the others, you know, I cycle a bit and it's fun and we all enjoy it, and the people that I meet while cycling love it too. For those who remember the consultation for this cycleway, I will recall how popular it actually was. There were no submissions received by people in Heathcote and Hillsborough that opposed this design. Once the cycleway is completed, it will connect children in Heathcote to their local high school in Linwood. Children in Heathcote, Hillsborough, Power will benefit from this cycleway, as well as people as far away from Littleton who have to drive or bus through the tunnel, then bike all the way into town on safer cycling infrastructure. And I think we need to remember cycleways not only low emissions, they make people healthier and safer on our roads. A key aspect of securing the $72 million shovel-ready money for the MCR was the need to have a contingency, and for that contingency to be held at a program level, which we were all aware of and was in the report to us in September 2020. Quote, the co-funding will remain committed for the duration of the projects, and the contingency will need to be made available at a program level to ensure council's obligations under this agreement are achieved, unquote. The decision today does not increase the funding to the cycleway program, and it does not put the other cycleways at risk. We know this, and we know the reasons for the original increase from the 2016 high-level estimate, contaminated land, Kiwi Rail, changes to Cumnor Terrace, and changes following consultation. Standard on most consultations would do on any project. We were informed of this and the increased cost, and it was reported to us through the Finance Performance Committee. This report clearly outlines why this project has increased in cost following the close of 10 years, including Kiwi Rail once again, Cumnor Terrace of the Orion cables, the extension of a boardwalk, consenting requirements and costs, street lighting and fencing. Even with this decision, most of the funding that will be required will come from government. And this amount from rates potentially will be decreased by another 51% if Waka Kotahi co-fund the additional amount. Anyone that thinks that high-level infrastructure costing from 2016 that was used to secure $8.2 million of government funding should stay firm in 2022 are divorced from reality. We have clear information in front of us on the timeline of events and what has caused these increases. We know that shovel-ready projects were required to have contingencies, and these will be held at a program level. Had there not been shovel-ready money, this project would have still been funded because it was part of the program and in the LTP. Voting against this will put at risk the $8.2 million shovel-ready funding from the government. It will lose efficiencies with other projects, leading to increased costs and create more disruptions to communities. I would expect that anyone voting against the request to use shovel-ready MCR contingency on an MCR shovel-ready project will also refuse any increase to the current stadium budget, including the use of contingency. Today, any vote against this and then a vote in the near future for a stadium increase will be a clear display of being anti-cycleway and having no desire to lower emissions, the major component for our city causing human-induced climate change. Not to mention voting against safety benefits of separated cycleways and the improvement to health, both mental and physical, from cycling. Thank you.
So I'll split the motion, given that at least Yanni has indicated that he's going to abstain from a couple of the resolutions, namely 2B and 2C. So I'll put one...
Andrew, could we get it up on the screen, if possible?
Yep, certainly. So if we can share the screen that I've got in here, that would be great. Yep, so everybody should now be able to see the resolution. So what I'd propose to do is to put 1 and 2 and 2A, and then 2B and C separately, together but separately. So this is 1, 2 and 2A. So all those...
division.
Yep, absolutely. So let's just do it as a division from the outset. So if we can call a division on 1, 2 and 2A, please.
The Mayor.
Aye.
Deputy Mayor Turner.
Yes.
Councillor Chen.
Yes.
Councillor Coker.
Yes.
Councillor Cotter,
Yes.
Councillor Donovan,
Yes.
Councillor Davidson,
Aye.
Councillor Galloway,
Yes.
Councillor Johansson,
Yes.
Councillor Kuhn,
No.
Councillor MacDonald,
No.
Councillor Major.
No.
Sorry, what was that?
No. No.
Thank you. Councillor McClellan,
Aye.
Councillor Scandrett,
Aye.
Councillor Templeton.
Aye.
And noting that Councillor Chu and Councillor Goff are currently absent. So, 12-4. And 3 against.
So that's carried. So next, resolutions 2B and C. So again, if we can take a division on those. So 2B and C together.
And why can't you do 3 as well, Andrew?
Oh, sorry. I should have.
I'm happy with. I'm comfortable with 3.
I should have actually included.
But I mean, it's semantics. So if it speeds it up, I'm relaxed. Yeah.
All right, we'll deal with 3 separately at the end for the sake of completeness. I probably should have added that in with 1 and 2, but I'll do 3 separately at the end. So this is 2B and C together, and then we'll do 3 separately as well. So 2B and C, a division, please.
The Mayor.
Sorry, I am here. Yep.
Deputy Mayor Turner.
Yes.
Councillor Chen.
Yes.
Councillor Coker.
Yes.
Councillor Cotter.
Aye.
Councillor Donovan.
Yep.
Councillor Davidson.
Aye.
Councillor Galloway.
Yep.
Councillor Johansson.
Same.
Is that an abstention?
Yeah.
Yep.
Abstention. Councillor Kuhn. That was a no. Councillor MacDonald.
No.
Councillor MacDonald.
No.
Councillor Major.
No.
Councillor McClellan.
Yes.
Councillor Scandrett.
Aye.
Councillor Templeton.
Aye.
So we have 1, 2, 3 against, 1 abstention, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 4. Noting that 2 councillors are currently.
So that's also carried. And then resolution 3. Do we need a division on that one as well, or can I just put that? I'll just put that one then. So all those in favour say aye.
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 Against?
No.
So Aaron voting against. Anybody else against? Nobody else against? All right, so that's carried. Thank you very much, and thanks to staff for detailed answers to detailed questions and the additional work done. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. So now we move to item 18, the resolution to exclude the public. Noting that Barry Bragg, Chair of Te Kaha Project